Hey, it's Itro. Who doesn't love the idea of making their own Pokemon region? I've done a bunch of fairy tale gyms, but I've never put them in an actual region. And I still won't be doing that, at least not today. Instead, I made an entirely new region, and they wouldn't really fit into this region. I wanted to make an entire region that is its own thing, rather than like shoehorning in all the gyms I've made before. So the region I've made is called Saker, because I like to force in Swedish stuff in things sometimes. And it's different than the regions we are used to in the main games. People here are fewer in numbers and are more dependent on their Pokemon. Most of the region is wild, unexplored nature, and the towns and villages are quite small compared to other regions. Because of the strong dependence on Pokemon, pretty much everyone in the region is a Pokemon trainer, and the trainer culture is very strong. Basically, if you want to survive here, you pretty much have to be a strong trainer. And people here are much less dependent on technology. For example, instead of having a giant electric power plant like in other regions, people just use their electric type Pokemon if they need electricity. So to people from other regions, this Saker region almost seems like it's kind of stuck in an ancient time and they're not quite up to date on the modern things. Almost a little bit medieval, but they still have all the modern stuff, they don't really use it as much. There are 8 established gyms in the region, of course, because as soon as the concept of a Pokemon League reached the Saker region, everyone just excitedly came together to make one of their own, because they all just love to battle. Some towns help young trainers get their first Pokemon based on what's useful in that town. Maybe a water type is good for a trainer living around the cacti desert, but there is also a traveling professor who gives out starter Pokemon. And she is of course traditionally named after a tree, so her name is Professor Evergreen. And she has a partner Pokemon who is an Apom. Because her research takes her all over the region, she figured she might as well help new trainers get on their feet. So her field of research is how Pokemon are affected by their environment, so having samples of Pokemon grow up all over the region is just beneficial to her. So giving out Pokemon to new trainers is a win-win situation. And because she got the idea of giving out starter Pokemon while she studied abroad in other regions, each of the Pokemon she gives out comes from a different region. And she gives out Trico, Chimchar, and Totodile. Because I think those fit the region quite well. And because I'm a special snowflake, I wanted them to be slightly unique for the region. Not enough that it's like an Alolan or Galarian form. They're still the same type, they still have the same stats. They're essentially like shiny versions, they're just slightly different looking. But of course they still also have shiny versions. But who are you? Are you a girl? Or a boy? Or whatever else. You're the young hero receiving the Pokemon like in every game. And their designs are based on like a mage. And the female one is more obvious because of the witchy hat. And I almost gave the male version the same hat, but I really wanted him to have big spiky hair. So he got a headband instead, just so I could show off the spiky hair. But because I'm a big fan of customization in games, you'd be able to change both of their clothes during the journey. And you can also put some accessories on your Pokemon because that's just cute. And it's also common practice to let your Pokemon wear something like a scarf to let people know it's already owned when it's out of its Pokeball. And of course you can also customize your hair and skin color. And it's probably not that hard to spot, but the outfits are also based on Pokemon. Maybe you can try to figure out which ones, even though I think it's kind of obvious. And starting trainers receive a Pokemon, a trainer handbook with some basic tips, some safari balls. Those are, by the way, standard in the region in place of regular Pokeballs. And of course you get a Pokédex. And the Dex is based on a smartphone. It doesn't contain a Rotom though, those rare Pokemon have better things to do than to hang around a small phone Dex all day. They want to live their own lives. Looking at you, Galar region. And of course you'll just pick up a whole bunch of other items along your travels as well. But you're not the only trainer getting a Pokemon, because so is your rival. And before any of you have gotten a Pokemon, he shows up among the local kids who wants to get a Pokemon from Professor Evergreen, who has just arrived in town. And he's a long-haired boy with an attitude, and his name is Vargir. This was among the first designs I made for the video before Sword and Shield Dreidels. You guys have no idea how long it took me to make this video. Like, Sword and Shield didn't exist when I started making this. I'm so slow. But anyway, the trailer for Sword and Shield came out, and Hop just happened to have a blue shirt with the fluffy colors, and so although it's slightly similar to Hop, it's actually purely coincidental. And the reason I made it blue is because the main character girl is wearing purple and the boy is wearing green, and if you look at a spectrum of colors, the middle color of those would be blue. So I didn't want to change the color. So yeah. So back to the story. Vargir is not originally from your town. He tracked down Professor Evergreen with the intent of getting one of her Pokémon because he wanted to start his Pokémon journey. And the local kids in your town get upset with this idea because that means one of them is losing a Pokémon to an outsider who isn't even from their town. So Vargir challenges them to a battle for the right to receive a Pokémon. And of course the local kids get super confused because they don't have their own Pokémon yet, and that is why they're getting one from the professor. And Vargir just clenches his fists and he's like, "No, I meant you!" And all of the kids sort of panic because he wants to literally fight him using his fists. And they're like, "What's a Psyduck, dude?" And he just replies, "You plan to force your Pokémon to battle but not fight yourself? Pathetic." Yeah, so all the other kids are like really intimidated by him, and no one actually wants to fight him, so he just like marches right up to the professor and gets a Pokémon. And because you're also a local kid of this town, he kind of assumes you're also as pathetic as the others, and he just makes no effort to hide that he looks down on you. So Vargir spends all of your journey being mean to you, because mean rivals are the best rivals. Although maybe towards the end, he starts warming up to you, who knows? And obviously he's picking whatever Pokemon is strong against yours. As for Professor Evergreen, she doesn't mind giving a Pokemon to an enthusiastic kid who wants to be a trainer, and she doesn't keep track of what kid lives in what town, so it's not an issue from her side. And hold up, before we go on, I should probably warn you that you might run into some bad guys. Because there's an evil team terrorizing the region. Team Power. And I know it's a pretty generic name, but it works because they're a quite generic evil team. And also I feel like Team Power is like a positive thing, so I thought it would be fun to have the evil team be called that, I don't know. And their main goal is, quite boringly, to make money, because money is power. And their main method of making money is to hunt and steal rare and strong Pokemon to sell and exploit. Of course they don't care who or what they hurt along the way, so they're known to bring in like giant machines, chopping down entire forests just to force out all the Pokemon for their own profit. They tend to use a lot of dark types, but they will use anything if it benefits their goals, and they'll use Pokemon that are like common in the area they're currently operating in to show that they're actually using the Pokemon they're capturing, kind of. And they'll rise to even greater heights of evil once they manage to get the legendary bird tree on their side. But why would the birds work with the evil team? I guess you'll have to figure it out on your travels. And Team Power is a pretty generic team on purpose, because honestly, I want an evil team that is just pure bad for selfish reasons, that I get to like slam them into the ground and beat them up. They're kind of similar to Team Rocket, but more extreme. Like you'd actually have to free beaten up Pokemon from them, and you see them hurt and destroy things in Pokemon that are in the way. And you see them like way before you can do anything about it, because you're still a new trainer and you are forced to leave them do evil things until you are stronger. Okay, let's look at some towns. I'm not going to go through all the towns, but let's take a closer look at one of the towns. This is Magnolia Mountain Town. It's named after the mountain it's located at, which is covered in the magnolia trees, which makes it really pink and cute. This town is one of the biggest one in the region, and it's known for its big flying type Pokemon. Small flying types tend to get blown away by the strong winds, so you don't see that many of them here. Of course, there's also a lot of rock and ground type Pokemon, just living around the mountain, as well as Pokemon brought in with the humans, which are mainly ones that are good at climbing, maybe like Simisage and Ariados or something. And trainer classes that hang around here are like bird keepers and hikers and sky trainers, and yes, sky trainers is a thing in this region, because I like them. So here are some points of interest. We have the Pokemon Center, with Nurse Joy, because you know those Joy clones are everywhere in every region. Her typical partner is a milk tank, so she's always got access to that sweet moo milk. There's also a big arena in town, and it's for the Flying Mountain Race, a popular race among the townspeople and visiting trainers. And it's not exclusive to flying types, but a Pokemon that competes has to be airborne, and it's basically just a race. There's a start line, there's a flying course, and there's a goal, so you can win stuff. Super fun. And the trainer will be riding the Pokemon, so realistically, you wouldn't use a Pidgey because it's tiny, but for game purposes, you can use any Pokemon that can fly. Because it's just more fun that way. I mean, you want to use your Q to fly? Sure, why not? It's just really fun. I really like the idea of like a tiny Q to fly beating like a Salamence and Skarmory. And of course the town also has a gym, and the gym leader is called Kiran. And she's a flying type gym leader. Who would have thought that she would use flying type Pokemon when everything else about the town is flying type themed? So our Pokemon are Salamence, Staraptor, Skarmory, Gliscor, Dragonite, and Braviary. And she's a natural flying type master. Her Pokemon are basically her wings, and she's almost always up in the air flying with them. So her gym is basically just a stage at the top of the building and you battle in air. And another unique thing about Magnolia Mountain Town is the ancient cave carvings. Most people here are more into flying out in the open air, so the old cave carvings in the local caves, they aren't that big of a deal to people who live around there. Because you can't really have your big flying type fly around in a small cave, so why would they even go in there? But for those who are interested, the cave and the carvings seem to hold some old mysterious secrets. And Magnolia Town is also connected to the Orchid Outpost. It's a base for mail delivery, which is still widely used in the Sake region. It's run by delivery trainers and Pelipper, and yes, this is 100% inspired by Mystery Dungeon, which you can obviously tell if you've played Mystery Dungeon. It's also a mini resort for Pokemon and people to relax in. It's run by Julina and a lot of Smeargles. So this hot spring has this special thing where if you visit it once a day, your Pokemon will all get a random stat boost that lasts until midnight. So that's just one town out of many. Most towns are small but still have special things you can do in them to make it worth going back, like the mountain race and the hot spring. Originally I was just going to do a close-up of one town because drawing all this kinda takes a lot of time. But now I feel like I need to show another town, so I made another town. So bonus town! Hyacinth Town! And Hyacinth Town is located in a jungle area around a big river that flows through it. And this place is really hard to reach due to the jungle being super overgrown with big plants. And the jungle is home to many different Pokemon, largely like grass types and bug types, but many others as well. And there's no clear line between town and jungle, so wild Pokemon just come and go as they please. No one really knows how long Hyacinth Town have existed and how long people have been living here, but there are some like really old ancient temples, and those kind of suggest that the town's been around for a while. The gym leader is called Leela. Her specialty is psychic types. She's got Espeon, Grumpig, Xatu, Sigilyph, Darmanitan, because it's psychic when it's in Zen form, as well as a Bruxish, which hangs around the river and keeps track of what happens in the jungle for her. Leela is a very trusted member of the town community, and with her Darmanitan, she's able to take out most troublemaking grass and bug types. She's also got a hobby of making clay pots and ornaments, and she makes them with help of her Darmanitan, who uses his fire to harden the clay. She's actually one of the very few people in town who is even allowed to use a fire type, because even though they're very useful for protection against the wild Pokemon, there's also a big risk of forest fires, which they of course absolutely do not want to happen. So if you have a fire type, people get very nervous around you if they don't trust you yet. So maybe don't bring a fire type out on your first visit. And the lush nature is perfect for growing berries. So if you're lucky, you might get access to a small garden where you can grow some for yourself. But you have to watch out because, well, the Pokemon like to munch on those berries you grow, because they don't know it's human property. Which is kind of annoying, but you can actually hand out berries to local townsfolk, and some of them will warm up to you after a while, and they'll offer to take care of your berry plants when you're away. So they'll help with preparing mulch, watering plants, and fending off wild Pokemon. And the more generous you are with giving berries, the more help you will receive. I actually never planned to do 8 gym leaders. I wanted this to kind of be an open project in a weird way. But then I realized like 2 gym leaders is a little bit weak. So I did 2 more, and because the 2 first I've shown you were female, I decided to make 2 male ones. So I'm gonna save my favorite one for last because I ended up really liking this one. Well, I like all of them, but let's take this one first. This is the Steel type gym leader. He is the gym leader in Rose Riverside town, which is mostly next to lots of fields and the river, of course, because it's called the Riverside. And he's also close to mountains, so he can get whatever ore he needs for his blacksmith stuff. And he particularly likes to make weapons, but it's not a big focus because this is a family-friendly game. And with weapons I mean like old weapons like swords and his giant hammer and axes. I kind of just wanted him to be like a giant Viking stereotype because I really like Vikings and that's basically my heritage, so. Oh, and you might have noticed that I didn't tell you his name, and that's because he doesn't have a name. The last 2 gym leaders don't have any names because I couldn't decide on any, and then I thought it would be funny to let people just suggest names and maybe you guys could come up with some cool names. Okay, but now I'll show you my favorite gym leader that I've done. And he is the youngest gym leader in the entire region. He is the gym leader of a mushroom town, which is located in the poisonous bogland. There's just like purple bog smoke stuff, sludge everywhere, everything's poisonous. It's really dangerous, but for some reason people still live here. And his special interest is making potions using whatever weird poison mushroom and sludge and smoke stuff is around him. So he constantly has like his face covered because he needs to protect himself from all the poisonous smoke and stuff. His eyes are not actually super round and glowing, he's just wearing these protective goggles. And his really big dark hat makes it look like his eyes are just glowing red all the time and people are terrified of him. And he's really shy, and because he couldn't make friends, he drew on a big happy smile on his shirt so he would look friendly. And it just made people just be even more scared of him because now he looks absolutely terrifying. So he's just overjoyed when you come to battle him because he kind of finally gets to make a friend. Even though you're just there for a battle, but still, no one really wants to interact with him. And because you kind of become his very first friend, if you visit him like once a day after you've beaten him, of course, he'll give you one of his special potions that he's made, and they all have super beneficial effects on your Pokemon. I worked on this video like on and off for like over a year now, and even though it's kind of unfinished in a way because there's only like 4 gym leaders that you even heard about and 2 of them doesn't even have names, I still feel like this is enough to give you an idea of what I would want the region to be like. And I can always just make another video and update you with new gym leaders or the story or whatever. And please leave a like and please comment names for the last 2 gym leaders because they don't have any names and I gotta give them some kind of name. And subscribe, click the bell, whatever else YouTubers are supposed to promote, I don't know. Thanks for watching the video, trainers. So bye, I'll see you next time.